Greetings, Starfighter. You are about to listen to the totally super awesome 80's Reboot Overdrive podcast. Always remember, no matter where you go, there you are. Ready Player One.
I know what I want.
He likes the Wonder Wheel. Let's blow it up right away. All right.
The black man.
He wants one in black. All right, let's get it.
Any color you want. The black man.
He wants the black man. No, Eric. No, not today. Not now. Not never.
Yes.
He's not a toy.
He's trouble. You see the mustache? I asked him to shave that.
That's right.
Mr. Morehouse, I really don't care.
But he is one of our cleaning people, Eric.
I want him.
He's not for sale.
Why not?
Because he's a person.
Daddy said anything I wanted, anything in the store.
You can't buy a human being, Eric.
Well, why not?
Because...
It's against law, isn't it?
Well, absolutely.
Yes.
Mr. Morehouse, doesn't my daddy make the laws?
I think he's got a point there. You know, I've seen him
Mr. Morehouse.
before. He's
Now.
Now, it's your department.
Yes. Good choice, Eric.
A wonderful time.
very good.
Hello, everyone. This is Dave, and this is 80's Reboot Overdrive. And what you may not know is I triple dog dared actor Scott Schwartz to be on the show. So I broke a little protocol, and because I went right to the triple dog dare, and being, that you can't back down from a triple dog dare, he said yes. So how you doing tonight, Scott?
I'm terrific.
So how many times have you guys started out with a triple dog dare for interviews?
You know, you could be the first one who actually did that.
Oh, outstanding. Good deal. At least I stand alone. So, Scott, you were in the 80s, you were obviously a child actor involved with The Toy, A Christmas Story, Kidco, amongst many other TV shows, TV movies. How did you get started in all that?
Sort of happened, as they say, freak luck. My dad brought me to a film co-op society in New York called Joe's Place. It was right outside of the Lincoln Tunnel. And basically all it was about 20 to 35 people every Saturday night got together and watched old movies. The B-Westerns, the old serials with 12 and 15 chapters, Abbott and Costello's, all those kinds of things. And after a few years, one of the guys that was a member of the club said, "Hey, I'm producing a commercial for Yoo-Hoo chocolate drink in Miami Beach with Yogi Berra. I think you'd be good at it. Would you be interested in doing something like that?" I looked at my dad and sure, that sounds good to me. If it's good to Dad, it's fine with me. The next thing you know, we were on a plane and it all started.
Oh, it's been so long since I had a Yoo-Hoo.
There's nothing like walking the streets of Manhattan with a Yoo-Hoo, a hot dog, and a knish with the mustard. Although now they've taken away the knishes after like 80 years because they say it's a health hazard. And I'm just looking for a nice square knish.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love Yoo-Hoos. In fact, I've got a Yoo-Hoo T-shirt, so I just don't wear that one enough.
I think I got one too somewhere.
So when you did the commercial, did you have to drink a lot of it during the course of the commercial?
No, my bit was I had to be in a pool and then kind of like doggy paddle, and they had me close up, and then we had to grab Yoo-Hoos out of this big ice bin and swing on swings. That was it. No actual consumption of the product took place while I shot the commercial. There was a lot of consumption when I wasn't shooting because I loved Yoo-Hoo, so it was perfect.
So they kind of gave you a free rein to just help yourself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there was cases of it everywhere.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
So I started. I went out and then met a casting agent, then a couple of agents, signed with one of them, and it was commercials for, about 2 years, and I did off-Broadway, and then I did Broadway, and soon after was the movies.
Great. So how did you get from, how did The Toy come to you?
What they call a cattle call casting. It was 400 kids in a room, and you go in, you say your name, how you doing? Oh, it's nice to meet you. Okay, goodbye. That's about all the time they have. And it was just a process of 8 auditions. from 400 to 100 to 50 to 30 to 10, and you just keep going down. I screen tested in New York, and then they flew me out to California to screen test at Burbank Studios. And it was about 3 weeks after that, about 2.5 weeks after that, Richard Donner, the director, called me and said, congratulations.
So then for that, you said you basically went in, you said hello, but, I mean, they were probably looking for a specific person that would be able to portray kind of a bratty kid at the time, because that's how you started the film, right? But, obviously you evolved, right? So.
Oh, well, to be honest, they actually started off looking for a kid that could be Jackie Gleason's son. So they really want somebody who was my size, but probably 30 or 40 pounds heavier than I was. They say personality, basically leads to everything. As we dwindled down, there really wasn't a lot of kids who were chunky that I remember at this point. Toys R Us at the same time had a contest running for the toy to possibly appear in a major motion picture as Jackie Gleason's son, and the kid that won that, he was a dead ringer for a 12-year-old Jackie Gleason, a little pudgy kid. But, I mean, I have really a lot of thanks to give to somebody who nobody would know was involved, was not in the film itself, and other than he filled in at the screen test for Richard Pryor, he had nothing else to do with the film. Did you ever see the movie Airplane?
Yes.
Okay. The two jive guys, the thinner of the two, his name is Norman Gibbs. He showed up, and I thought I was reading with Pryor at the screen test, and that wasn't the case at all. He was stuck in divorce court number 5 or whatever it was. And they said, well, we have another actor here who's going to read with you. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I wanted to be Richard Pryor,
Right.
And Norman comes up. He came over to my trailer. He knocked on the door, said, hi, I'm going to be reading with you. So we went and took a walk just to chit-chat and get some kind of camaraderie between the two of us. And I keep looking at him. I'm like, this guy looks familiar. I know this guy. Well, I said, I know you've done other stuff before. Oh, yeah, I've done some, TV stuff, some movies. I said, what movies have you done? He did this movie. Nope. This movie. Nope. This movie. Nope. And he goes, well, I did that comedy Airplane. Well, that was it. Because I was a huge mega Airplane fanatic. To the point of, I used to have it on my Sony Walkman on a cassette. I had audio taped it. And I listened to it going to and from school on my bike.
Oh, that's classic.
So I knew all the jive talk, backwards and forwards. I knew all of it. And I started doing it with him. And he's cracking up. He could not believe a 13-year-old could do this the way he did it.
And that that's such a classic scene in that movie, too. The old lady that speaks jive, it was great.
Oh, yeah. Just ain't loose blood. She'll catch him on the rebound, not a medicine. What is Big Mama? My mama no raise no dummies. That's the correct. I just absolutely, I went bananas. So we had the screen test, and he told Richard Donner that I was I knew all the jive talk and all this. So what they had done is they had set up a large staircase for us to kind of come down and read the dialogue for the scene that they had. We did that a couple times, and then Richard Donner said, well, I'll tell a couple of jokes. So I come down, tell a couple of jokes, and we go back up. He said, Scotty, instead of doing it, the way we've been doing it, why don't you do it in jive? I said, sure. So Norman and I come down the stairs, and we're completely just saying nothing. We're just blabbing off at whatever is coming to mind that's not even real English words at all. And everybody cracked up. They just thought it was hilarious. Now, from a producer standpoint, what they basically did is they threw the kid a curveball. They threw a 13-year-old kid who this is his first screen test, first possible movie. The kid has to be nervous. Let's throw him the curveball and let's see what he does with it. And instead of choking, I thrived. And they said, hey, listen, he did this. He can handle Pryor and Gleason. This is the way to go. The other kid who screen tested was Henry Thomas, who did E.T. We were the final 2 kids for the role.
And I'm sure they didn't have Henry Thomas do jive, though.
Mm-mm. No, if you watch his performances as a child and mine, two completely different planets we were on. He was on the serious, sort of that Al Pacino-esque, Robert De Niro, up until the last 10 years ago, Robert De Niro, very serious method kind of. And me, I was a free spirit. I loved Pryor. I knew his work. I knew Gleason. I knew his work. I was a Smokey and the Bandit fanatic. I loved the Honeymooners. So they saw my personality take over. And that's what they wanted.
Now, I read somewhere that Gleason had gotten upset with you a few times because he ad-libbed and you had your lines memorized. Is that true?
Not exactly. He was not mad at me. Not exactly. What happened was the first day of my shooting, they wanted to get the roughest, most emotional scene out of the way. So we did the scene in the film where he's taking me back to the plane for me to go back to military school, and we're in the Rolls Royce, and we have that emotional scene where, I'm telling him that, Jack thinks about his friends and all this kind of stuff, and money doesn't mean anything. And this was my first day of shooting, and he's ad-libbing everything. And I had no idea what ad-libbing was. I was a stage performer. I did Broadway. I did off-Broadway. All the commercials. Everything is exactly what the script says. And that's the only thing that really threw me for a loop. So I wasted the first day of shooting. Gleason wasn't mad. There were, on the set, nobody was upset, whatever. And afterwards, they had me go back with the producer to the hotel, and we called my dad. And he says to my dad, "Listen, we got a problem. Your kid doesn't know his lines." And my father goes, "You're crazy. He knows everybody's lines." And he's like, "Well, he just flubbed the whole day on this film." Dad says, "All right." He puts me on the phone. All right, what's going on? So I tell him. He says, "Listen, it's called ad-libbing. I don't care what they say anymore. Don't pay any attention to it. When they stop talking, say your line. You'll be fine." Okay. So then the guy proceeds to tell my dad, "Listen, if this happens again tomorrow, he's going to be fired. He's going to be released from his contract. We're going to send him home." Of course, by the next day, I had talked to Dad. I felt a little bit better, and I was like, okay, now I can just don't listen to what they're saying. Just let them stop, take a breath, and then I'll say my line. That lasted 2 days, and then Richard Pryor heard what happened, and he called me. He goes, "Come over to my room." And I went over to his room. We're sitting, and we're chit-chatting for about 10 minutes, and he says, "Okay, now stop." He says, "Do you know what we just did?" I said, "Well, we're having a conversation." He says, "No, we just ad-libbed. That's all ad-libbing is. It's just talking. As long as you stay within the context of what the scene is supposed to be, say whatever you want." And I went, "Oh, I can do that." And, within a week or about 10 days of shooting, I was ad-libbing right along with him.
So would you say that a lot of that movie then was ad-lib? Or did you guys stay pretty close to the script?
No, God, no. Probably 70 or 75% is ad-lib. The poor script supervisor. Her name was oh, my God, that poor woman. Because every time you do something, she's making notes as a script supervisor. So every time you're doing a take a certain way, she has to write it down that way. So when you do another angle, you have to match what was said the first time. That poor woman, Gleason and Pryor, just absolutely, I thought she was going to pull her hair out.
So what was it like working with Pryor?
Magnificent. There were two different Richard Pryors, as most people know at this point, pre him, having his accident and burning himself up, and then the after one. I got the after one. I got the one that was more caring, loving, sharing, considerate, and wanted to be a better person than he was the first go around. He gave me knowledge. He gave me, any question I had, I could ask him. There wasn't anything that wasn't on the table with him. He said to me, "Listen, you're going to, have relationships with women, and you're going to drugs and booze and this. Just call me." He goes, "You'll have all my numbers. Just call me. I've done everything. So if you want to know what happens if you do something, call me before you do it."
So he was a great mentor for you then.
He became my mentor and my muse for many, many, many years. There is no compliment I could give him that could really be accurate to the kind of person he was to me. He became an older brother that I loved as much as I loved my family.
That's awesome. That is great to hear. You just don't get to hear that kind of side of Richard Pryor. I mean, I know he's a great actor, and I know that he'd been a caring person after, like you said. But I was just to hear that's fantastic.
We got to do a conversation one day. I don't remember exactly what it was. Somebody said something about ego. That Mr. Gleason always had an ego because he was Mr. Gleason and he deserved it. He earned it. Whatever. And Richard and I were sitting in his trailer, and he says to me, I have a question. I said, sure. He says, do you know how much ego pays? I said, what do you mean? He says, do you think ego will ever pay a car payment for you? Or your house payment? Or, a car insurance? Or for going to the movies? He goes, how much do you think ego pays? I said, I don't know. He said, exactly. Ego doesn't pay anything. It's just a waste of time. Why have it? In its own simplistic way, that's somebody who had everything. I mean, he was a major movie star, probably in the top 2 or 3 greatest stand-up comedians of all time. The ultimate respect, in the black African American community. He was the Godfather. He was Brando, And for him to look at me and say, no, it's not even worth bothering with it. Don't even think about it, And that was something that he gave me that I still always think about it, and it's there for everybody. Now, not everybody had Richard Pryor as a mentor.
And you would figure that in his status at that time, he kind of could have been that way, but it sounds like he definitely wasn't. So that is awesome. No. I mean, one quick story. This was, years later. We had finished the film. I had moved to California. We lived about 12 minutes away from each other. He calls me up one day about 11:30 in the morning. He says, what are you doing? I said, nothing. Come on over. So I go over to his house. I said, what's going on? He said, all right, come on, we're going out. Where are we going? Don't matter. Just come on, let's go. So we jump in his white Rolls Royce, and we drove down to Paramount. And he's still not telling me what's going on. We're just talking in the car. We get down to Paramount. Oh, Mr. Pryor, they look at the list. You have to be on the list or whatever. The guy looked at him, and he goes, oh, Mr. Pryor, go right ahead. Have a nice day, sir. And we drive on the Paramount lot, and he took me over to the set of Coming to America because he knew that I loved Eddie Murphy. He knew I was a James Earl Jones fan because of Darth Vader and Star Wars. So he wanted to introduce me to the gang. That is awesome.
And I got to meet John Amos. And I'm still friends with John Amos. We see each other and how you doing, and we hug and we kiss, and how have you been? How's the family? I mean, it led to friendships that have lasted forever. Ironically, I was married years ago, and the night I got married, we went to the Comedy Store to have a little, after-wedding celebration. It was a Sunday night. I figured it would be slow. Well, I was wrong. There was a comedian up on stage, and just so happens that in the audience that night was Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy. So they come out, and they're in the little back area back behind the club in the parking area there. And my now ex, of course, my wife was with me. And I said, come on, let's go say hi to Eddie. And she's like, oh, no, that's Eddie Murphy. And I said, so what? I know him. And she's like, yeah, right. I said, no, it's okay. Come on, walk over with me. And she did not believe me for 1 second. And I walked over, and I tapped him on the shoulder. And I said, hey, Big E, what's up? And he looks at me, and he goes, Scotty Schwartz, what are you doing here, man? How have you been? Of course, I'm all dressed up in my tux. And I said, I just got married about 3 hours ago. He's like, oh, this is your wife. How beautiful. And he's giving her a hug and a kiss. But that door was opened by Richard.
That is so great that he recognized you as a fan of their work and then just took you out there to introduce you just because. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now, what was it like working with Jackie Gleason then?
I still call him Mr. Gleason. That's a respect thing. It was interesting. I knew beforehand because people told me he does not like working with kids and animals. So I knew that going in. We get down to Louisiana, and we're having the hello breakfast, brunch thing in his presidential suite at the Hilton Hotels. Mr. Gleason was friends with the family. Anywhere in the world he went, he stayed at the Hilton in their presidential suite. So there's a big, big table, it's like 14 of us or whatever. And we all sit down, and there's Mr. Gleason sitting on the end, and Richard Pryor and the director, Richard Donner and Ray Stark and my dad and the other people and whatever. And not even a hello is said, and Richard Donner says to me, Scotty, go over to Mr. Gleason there and do that Smokey thing that you do. And I did Smokey and the Bandit. So I went over to Mr. Gleason. I'm standing up, He's sitting down, and I'm still smaller than he was. I was 4'5". And I walked over to him. I go, "There's no way that you could come from my loins. As soon as we get home, first thing I'm going to do is punch your mama in the mouth." Well, he just starts laughing. Not even, "Hey, kid, that was funny." Nothing. He starts laughing. And he's like, "Keep going." So I did like 4 or 5 minutes of Smokey and the Bandit, and he's cracking up. Whatever those few moments did showed him that I knew who he was. I appreciated his work. I was an ultimate fan at 13 of his, but he knew I wanted to learn from him. He knew that going, as soon as we started, he knew it. And so it sort of started us off on a different vibe and a different path. He was never mean to me. He was never, "Kid, what are you doing?" He never did that. God, we were in the shooting in that big house with the pool in the back and all that. And he calls me in his trailer one day, and we're sitting there talking. And I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but I said something. I said, "Mr. Gleason," he says, "Listen, hang on. In here, it's okay. You can call me Jackie. But out there, you have to call me Mr. Gleason because it's a respect thing, and then everybody will start doing it because you're doing it." I said, "Okay." And even so, there were a few times I called him Jackie, and most of the time I still called him Mr. Gleason. But he taught me how to shoot pool. How many, 13, 14-year-old kids can say Jackie Gleason taught them how to shoot pool?
I can't think of a one.
Exactly, And he was a master marksman. I mean, the film The Hustler, if you watch it, when he's shooting those balls, there are no cuts. There's none. He's hitting every shot. He was a master. He beat Steve Miserak, he beat Willie Mosconi, he beat Minnesota Fats. Those are guys that are in the Billiards Hall of Fame, and he beat all of them.
And he was teaching you how to shoot.
And he's teaching me how to shoot pool.
That is sweet. So I've got to ask, did you get a chance to ride the Wonder Wheel?
No, I was too small.
Okay.
I know it sounds really funny, but even like with my arms extended, I could barely hold the top of the thing. The straps that were there, I couldn't even hold it.
But you tried.
I got in it once,
okay.
But I wouldn't even tell them, forget this.
So also one of the scenes, you got to ride the car through, down the stairs and all that. That seemed pretty crazy fun. Did you enjoy doing that?
Actually, scared the bejesus out of me. If you watch the film itself, as we're coming down to the stairs, if you're looking at me coming down, the car goes to the left-hand side. And then I swung the wheel back and came right back dead center and hit the table. Scared the heck out of me because, the car just was bouncing and it went to the right. I wasn't a driver. I was, 13 years old. I have a driver's license. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm just trying to keep it straight. And it sort of veered off, and I just swung the wheel back and came back right dead center. So that was pretty much the scariest thing. I mean, they had a spring rope that was actually holding the car, but if I went off to the side, all over. It's all over. There'd be no saving us.
So did you do that in one cut, or did you have to do that a couple times?
No, we did that in one cut. That was one take. Okay. I really didn't do it again. And because I hit the table, I hit the tray table dead center, and it fell over perfect, they were like, "That's good. That's good enough. If we print it, something's wrong, we'll come back and do it again. Otherwise, it's fine. Don't move the car. That's it."
How was Richard during that scene?
He was fine.
Okay. He was having fun with it?
Oh, yeah. He didn't give me any notes like, "Hey, let's not go off the side here." Didn't say anything,
So any other good memories of the toy?
Oh, there's tons of them. I mean, it's hours worth. People ask me, "Oh, do you remember that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was 14 while we were shooting. I had my birthday." You remember stuff from being 13 and 14. You don't necessarily remember stuff from 7, 8, and 9.
Right.
Oh, no. I have vivid memories of all of it. It's like, I watch it once in a blue moon now because I saw it so many times as a kid with parents, grandparents, friends, aunts, uncles, cousins, all that kind of stuff. But, every scene, something in there is a memory.
And you don't mind re-watching and reliving those memories?
I don't do it too often, you know, because I've seen it enough now. I know what it is. It's there. You know, I did the job. I put it in its place. I've left it there. But, I mean, every so often, if I happen to flip through and it's something, let me see which scene. That's funny. What else is on, you know?
So you don't keep it on and, like, continue watching it then?
No, I don't think there's an actor in the world that can keep watching their own stuff.
Okay. Fair enough.
You know, there's too many variables that go in with it because you're not really thinking about the film itself. You're remembering shooting it. So you're remembering the PAs and the first AD and who's that? And, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so. Oh, yeah, oh, my goodness, I forgot that person. Oh, yeah. And this, you know. So it's tough to watch your own films, I guess, once you get maybe past a certain point. As an adult, you know, I've seen them enough. You know, I mean, Christmas Story, there's 24 hours, marathon. I flip through the channels, you know. I've seen it. I know what happens at this point.
And that's exactly where I was going next, was A Christmas Story. So, obviously, you played Flick. You got triple dog dared to stick your tongue to the post. I think I read that was actually like a suction device that was holding you on there. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a plastic pole. They had put a little hole in it, about the size of your pinky nail. And they had a suction tube that went into the snow with like a little motor, like a little vacuum motor. So it was just a suction tube. And you just went up there, and then you just got stuck, and that was it. Movie magic.
Movie magic.
And I tell any kid out there who's thinking about doing it, please don't. You know, every year I get a phone call from the Sun-Times in Chicago or the Indiana newspapers or North Dakota, South Dakota. Some kid did this. What would you like to say to him? I tell him he's an idiot, because don't you see in the movie we get stuck? Why would you do that? You know, your parents would be so happy. So this is my disclaimer. Please don't try it. It does work.
Yeah, please don't.
You know, in the 40s, if they didn't do it to a pole, they had kids doing it to railroad tracks.
Oh, God, that just sounds yucky. I would, something close to the ground like that. No, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
even if I was triple dog dared.
I don't know if there were any kids that were ever killed doing it back then. Of course, it's way before the movie, thank goodness. But, you know, you've really got to tear your tongue off, and you're bleeding, and you're crying, and then your parents look at you and go, what did you do? And I stuck my tongue on the thing. What are you, an idiot?
So the speech when you're stuck, though, was that ad-lib or was that scripted?
That was absolutely ad-lib. That was just Bob Clark looking at me going, hey, listen, just come up with something. If I don't like it, I'll tell you. That was how I got Christmas Story. I had come back from shooting this other film called Kidco, and the toy had opened in the theaters, and Bob wanted to see me before the holidays. It was like around the 20th or 21st of December, and he was in New York, and I went to see him, and there really was no audition process, so to speak. I went in, he and I sat down, there was nobody else there, you know, either in the office waiting to be auditioned or beside him in the office. There's no videotape rolling, nothing. And we just chit-chatted for a little bit, and he says, hey, it's like 2:15, 2:30, you hungry? I said, what do you have in mind? He said, well, how about a hot dog? Hey, hot dog on the corner? You got it, absolutely. So we walked out. My dad was sitting there. I said, Dad, we're going out for a hot dog. Come on. So the three of us went down the street, had a hot dog. We came back. He said, Scott, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much. I said, okay, nice to meet you too. And we were at 52nd or 53rd and Broadway, and my agent's office was 57th and Broadway. So we just walked up to my agent's office. And the car was parked one block from there. And by the time we had walked those few blocks and went up the elevator, Bob Clark had already called the agent and said, Scotty got the job. That was it.
Wow. That was a great hot dog.
He wanted to meet me, see if I was a regular kid, not a Hollywood put-together, you know, piece-by-piece kid. If I was just a regular kid who was fun. And that's what I was.
That is really awesome. Now, you're still interacting with Zach Ward, too, right?
Oh, Zach's one of my homies, one of my best friends. He lives about 25 minutes from me, and we speak on a regular basis.
So what you're saying is Flick and Scott Fargus are best friends now. They're besties.
Exactly. The bully is no longer the bully.
So does he wear
Now,
the hat with the God, what was it? The squirrel hat or what?
the raccoon hat?
Raccoon hat. Thank you.
He does bring it to appearances if we go places sometimes, and people ask him to put it on, and give the face and whatever. Fans are coming and they're paying their money to meet us or greet us, take a picture, get an autograph. So why not give them, the 30 seconds of pleasure and entertainment and create a memory for them that they'll have their whole lives.
Sure.
The game of fame is great if you know how to play it. If you use an ego, we can use that. It interferes with the camaraderie between people. Everybody's human. We all put our pants on put our shirt on, take a shower like everybody else. We all eat and sleep. And the more friendly you are, the more people appreciate. And I mean, that does count for something in this crazy world we live in. Rather be a good person than a bad one.
Yeah, that sounds refreshing, Scott, because what, you seem to get from people that have had their heyday back in, yesteryear. They seem to have gotten, well known for something, but then they don't want to revisit it. They don't want to go back there. But it sounds like, you and, in this case, Zach, you guys are embracing, what what the fans are enjoying and kind of giving them that moment to relive.
Listen, there's a lot of people who have a lot of egos. But at the end of the day, I say it kind of simply. I want to see where you are in 30 years. Are people still going to know you? Are they going to care? We were a part of a project in A Christmas Story that's in the National Film Registry, one of 650 films that has ever been made. There's been hundreds of thousands of films made, and a lot of them nobody care about. Fans decided that they picked me as their person, and they built a bronze statue of me in Hammond, Indiana, the home of Gene Shepard, the writer of Christmas Story, with the tongue on the pole. There's 25 or 26 actors in the world, in the history of cinema, to have people erect statues for them. I'm one of 26. You want to go for Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, and George Clooney, and Tom Cruise, and Travolta, and guess how many of them have those fans that have done that for them? That number would be 0.
You're in leagues with Rocky.
Well, actually, believe it or not, his doesn't count because he made his for a prop in a movie.
Oh, really?
He made that
Okay.
for Rocky 3.
Okay.
Whereas Lucia Ball has a statue in her hometown. Jackie Gleason has a statue at the Port Authority bus terminal in New York, or actually downtown at the bus terminal. Richard Pryor, they put one in his hometown of Peoria, Illinois. Mary Tyler Moore has one. Henry Winkler has one in Milwaukee. Jackie Chan has one, I believe, in China. Jean-Claude Van Damme has one in Europe, as does Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, I mean, to be in that kind of company, I mean, let's face reality is that statue and $4 still gets me a cup of coffee and a donut at Dunkin' Donuts. So on a monetary level, really, what does it get me? Nothing. But it's the legacy level that I did something that is left behind that people appreciate and love and care for.
I agree. That is not only just a very memorable movie, but just a very memorable scene. And, to know that that's, a statue somewhere, that is just perfect. Yeah.
I mean, anybody can go on Google and just Google Christmas Story Flick statue, bronze statue. It's there. The pictures are there. And, it was a pretty unbelievable day, for people to have cared enough to do that and spend a lot of money to do that. That's not cheap.
No, not at all.
It's more to make that statue than it is to put down the money for a star on the Walk of Fame.
Wow. But now I've got to Google the Richard Pryor one. I'm curious about the one in Peoria now.
Yeah, they unveiled it last April. I have not been in the vicinity yet, but I know I'm going to go to Chicago probably sometime over the next 6 months to a year. Normally we get called in to do an appearance somewhere or whatever. And as soon as I get anywhere within a couple of hours of driving distance, I'm going to go.
Yeah, I've got to check it out because I live in the suburbs of Chicago. So I've got to find that out for you and scout it out, let you know.
No, I've seen it online. I've seen the pictures of it. It's in Peoria. It looks fantastic. It's a marvelous thing. I mean, sort of one of my jokes is, I give a trivia question, name the one film in the history of Hollywood where the 3 stars have bronze statues. And it's hysterical because it's The Toy. A film that was thrown away by the critics. Now it's, a slavery thing with this, and that's just ridiculous. But that's the one movie. The 3 leads have bronze statues in the world. And for me to be in their company is beyond imagination, belief, or anything else. I'm just a kid from Jersey who had a little bit of talent, a lot of luck, and, a lot of humor in his bones to do what I did. And for me to be mentioned in their breath is beyond words.
Now, moving on, you said you filmed Kidco before you filmed The Toy?
No, I did The Toy first. I came home a couple months later, went to do Kidco, got done, and, what was it, 3 weeks? No, about a month later, 6 weeks, I was off doing Christmas Story.
Oh, okay. So how did Kidco come to you?
That was an audition process. I think I took the lead right from the start. I was kind of like Secretariat, where I just came right out of the gates flying because I had done The Toy with Gleason and Pryor, and I was basically, Godzilla at that point. I could do you could throw anything on my back and I could do it. The producers saw that. They knew I could handle the amount of dialogue, the workload. I'm in 99% of the film, 98% of the film. There was no big screen test in California for that. I just had whatever it was, 6 or 7 auditions in New York, and got booked for it. At the point toward the end, the last couple auditions, I was actually being called in at like 1:30 in the afternoon, and they would have me read with other girls to play my sisters to see who matched up well with me.
In that movie, you were very entrepreneurial with kind of how you were doing your, or how the business was going. This was based on a true story, wasn't it?
Yes. Richard Cessna Jr. and his sisters, Nene, June, and Betty. They were entrepreneurial kids, started a business, and made a lot of money, and this is based on their story.
And did you have kind of that same business acumen as a kid?
I actually did. Funny thing enough, I lived down the street from a golf course. And in the summertime, myself and one of my buddies, we would go over to the course, and on the side, you got the rough and you got the trees and whatever, and we would go in there and dig out golf balls. And I'd take a couple of egg crates, and we'd stick the balls in the egg crates and sell the balls for 50 cents.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it was so doing Kidco, because I'm like, I just did this last summer. So it was not a stretch for me at all.
You were already involved in doing something like that and just taking just your effort and then making money out of it.
Yeah. Oh, listen, it was great to, make 20 or 30 bucks on a Saturday and then go to the movies, or go have a pizza and enjoy it.
So any good memories from Kidco?
Oh, actually the first starting off is a great memory. We're having a read-through, the first read-through with the whole cast, and the producers are there, David Niven Jr. and Frankie Blonde, Ron Maxwell, the director, the first AD, the second AD, my parents, all the other girls, their parents. We get done with the read-through, and our shooting schedule was supposed to go until December 22nd. The Toy was opening in the theaters December 10th. So we get done with the read-through, and I said, Ron, can we just have a little chit-chat for a minute? Now, you got to remember, I'm 14 years old. And he's like, what's up? I said, no, I just want to talk with you and Frank and David and Alan, the important people that are the first AD, whatever. He's like, okay. So everybody else leaves, and we're sitting in the room, and I proceed to tell him, listen, I said, we have a scheduling conflict here. And I got to remember, I'm 14. I go, we have a scheduling conflict. The film's not supposed to wrap until December 22nd. December 10th, The Toy is opening in the theaters, and I have to be free for promotional stuff, for promo, for TV shows, whatever. He looks at me and he goes, get out. I'm like, excuse me? He goes, get out. So I start to get up. Me and my dad get up. He goes, no, not you, Danny. That was my dad. It's my dad. Just you, Scotty. Go across the hall. Go play video games. There's a little game room across the hall. I go out. And they're like, listen, are we going to have a problem with your kid? My dad goes, no. But he just told us that we have to wrap shooting 12 days early. And again, we use the terminology Godzilla. My dad goes, listen, You have a kid who just did 4 months with Gleason and Pryor. He's Godzilla. He's Secretariat. He's Affirmed. Any Triple Crown winner you want to mention, that's him right now. Just get on his back. He's going to ride you to the finish line. And they're like, but this is not how things happen in Hollywood. You don't ever get ahead. You get behind. He goes, listen, I know my son. If he says he's going to do something, he does it. So they send the guy, Alan, the first AD, back over. He brings me in the room, and they sit down. He says, okay, Scotty, so you want to finish 12 days early. What do you think you want to do first? I said, well, I'd like to take a look at the shooting schedule. Let's see if we can minimize some things and move some things around. There is no 14-year-old on planet Earth that says that. He was kind of calling my bluff, so to speak. And he's like, you want to do what? I said, no, let's look at the shooting schedule. Let me break it down with Alan. Let's see if we can figure some things out here. And then they went, sure, whatever you want, kid. And they walked out. Me and the AD sat there till after midnight, moving stuff around the shooting schedule. And believe it or not, we finished wrap shooting of Kidco on December 10th. It was a Friday. The toy opened in the theaters. The wrap party was half at the hotel that we were in Tucson, Arizona. And the other half was they had bought 4 rows of a movie theater out. So the 8 o'clock showing of the toy, we all went to see the toy in the movie theaters on opening night.
Oh, the whole cast?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
everybody.
Sweet. Nice.
That was their thank you to me for saving them 12 days of shooting, which, if you know about film, was probably something in the vicinity of $1 million that I saved them. So I didn't get any of that $1 million, but I did get to go see the toy on opening night.
With your, the cast of your new movie. So that was great.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Great memory.
Fun times, fun things. It's something that there's a lot of kids that have gone through their workload or their films or this. Some of them had good experiences, some didn't have good experiences. Mine was fun. I've had that outlook. And if you're going to do something, A, do it right, B, do it fast, and C, have fun doing it. And how could I not have fun? I did, doing the toy was Pryor and Gleason in Louisiana, going to the movies with Pryor, going to arcades and doing bumper cars with him, and talking about The Hustler and The Honeymooners with Gleason. Every morning he would say to me, so what was on last night? And I would go into whatever episode was on the night before. So I had fun. Shooting Kidco, I was the star of the film. So I was getting a little bit of preferential treatment. I got the bigger trailer. And I got, I don't want to say I got more than the other kids, but I did to some degree. My Christmas Story, that to me was the ultimate vacation. I worked for 6 weeks, but I worked 6 days. That's it. I worked 6 days and 6 weeks. And I looked at my dad and I go, this is going to be fun. Granted it was in, the frozen tundra of Cleveland and Canada, in the wintertime, and it was 25 degrees below zero when you see me stuck on that pole. But in the off hours, I had fun. I was sitting in the arcades. I was going to my schooling 3 hours a day, and I was playing video games.
And you had probably the most memorable scene out of that movie. I mean, it that's just fantastic. And I'm glad that you embraced that, from your past.
Some people don't enjoy things, or they don't understand life. And they don't understand when something is given to you and you have that blessing to appreciate it today, yesterday, and tomorrow. I appreciate the fact that I was given that shot, given that opportunity, and took it to the max. Did something that people just love. I mean, a fond memory that has nothing to do with shooting. I was in Chicago doing a radio show for a guy, and I was going to be the guest sports commentator. And my only request was, if I'm going to do this, I want to get in the Bulls locker room and meet Michael Jordan. And he's like, absolutely, go ahead, man. Take your recorder, ask questions. You're press. You're going to be media. You can do what you want. I said, great. Ended up in the Bulls locker room. Ended up after the game, seeing Jordan, meeting him, talking with him. He was a monster Christmas Story fanatic. He used to take on VHS his Christmas Story on the road with him when he was flying on a plane.
How cool is that?
He did me. The Scott. I'm standing there in the training room of the United Center.
Right.
And I'm looking across the training table, And there's Michael Jordan sitting doing me, just like I stood there doing Gleason.
That has got to be so awesome.
Yes.
Just Michael Jordan being the megastar that he is, and that he's a fan of yours, has got to feel just humbling.
Humbling, I don't know if that's the exact word. Humbling is a strange word. It was more amazement. I'm like, really? And he started, and he, we talked about when he came to LA, I would come and see him, and I said, I know what hotels you guys are at. And he's like, how do you know? And I'm like, well, this kid, Eric Murdoch, who played in the NBA, and he knew Eric. I said, I went to grade school, middle school, and high school with him. I said, we've been homies since we were, 6 years old and 7 years old. And so I ended up in LA going over to the hotel, found his room. Actually, Dennis Rodman gave me Michael's room number. And and I show up and I knock on the door, and this big guy answers, can I help you? I said, yeah, I'm here to see Michael. Who are you? So I said, I'm Scotty Schwartz, Christmas Story. He said, well, hold on a minute. Shuts the door, and he goes in the room. Next thing you know, the door flies open. My buddy, my friend, how are you? And he gives me a big hug and kiss, and how have you been? Sit, we're going to have lunch. You want filet mignon? Okay, fine. So I'm having lunch now with guys from Nike. We're having a meeting with him, and, we're sitting there having a lunch. And he says, hey, listen, I hate to throw you out of here, but we got to have a confidential meeting. I said, no, he says, you coming to the game tonight? I said, Mike, I love you, but I don't have $900 for an upper-tier ticket. He's like, no, just tell him, he'll write your name down right, you'll have a ticket. Just come to the game. Okay. I told the guy my name. I go to the will call, and sure enough, there's a ticket, and I'm sitting on the floor for a Bulls-Lakers game.
Oh, who would not go to that? That is awesome.
There's actually a funny story that goes with that. A friend of mine, who's a monster Laker fan, he always went, he probably went out of 41 games. He probably went 25 games a year. So, of course, he's there, and he happened to call me like 4 o'clock. He's like, hey, I got an extra ticket to the game. You want to go tonight? I said, well, how much is it? Oh, $600. I got a deal. I said, you know what, thank you, but that's okay. Now, I already knew I had a ticket that was waiting for me. So I go to the arena, and I'm standing right at halftime, right behind the Bulls bench, and I call him on his cell phone. And I said, hey, where are you? What side of the stadium you're sitting on? He said, oh, I'm sitting on the opposite side of the bench. I said, okay. Now, this guy's 6'10", big boy. So I said, okay, stand up, and if you're thinking of a clock, look at like 11 o'clock right behind the Bulls bench. Well, he stands up, and I can fully see him, and I start waving. I'm like, how you doing, Dave? How are you? And I got him on the phone. He's like, wait a minute. You said, I said, dude, I wasn't paying for a ticket. Michael left me a comp ticket. Well, that just blew his mind. He told that story for years to people.
Oh, I would too. So actually, Scott, I've got a few Twitter questions for you.
Sure.
At MattDuck21 asked you, did you get to keep any of the toys from the film The Toy? And if you did, which ones? They
actually offered me the cars. They were going to give me the motorized cars, the go-karts.
Did you say no?
My dad, the Camaro, the truck, the red car, the racing car, they were giving me all of them. And my dad said, listen, he's 14, we don't do that kind of stuff. So I ended up, the scene where Richard and I are sitting, I'm standing, and he's sitting on the glove, that big, like, catcher's mitt thing.
Right.
Right next to it to the left is a little wooden fort. And it was just full of stuff, but it was like a wooden clubhouse. And that's what they ended up giving me on an 18-wheel tractor trailer. It showed up at my house. I built the thing. I insulated it. I put paneling on it and carpeting. And it was a little fort in a house that I had. And, of course, when I moved to California, unfortunately, it did not make the move with me. I think it's in a bin somewhere being recycled.
Okay.
I should have picked a pinball machine. That's what I should have picked.
That would have been great. Some of those video games.
No, the pinball machine. I actually won a pinball tournament in Manhattan, in New York. I'm a pinball guy.
Oh, okay. Next question. At the Fanboy Life, he's asking, how was it working with legends like Gleason and Pryor so young? And did you understand who they were or how adult Pryor's humor was?
Well, I sort of answered most of that already, but
you did.
Yes, I did know Richard's adult humor. My dad was never a person where language bothered him. I was 7 years old, and Dad came back from the movies one night, and he says, on Saturday, I'm taking to this Mel Brooks movie called Blazing Saddles. You're never going to laugh so hard in your whole life. I saw Richard Pryor live in concert. I saw Richard Pryor live on the Sunset Strip at the time in the movies. You know, I was exposed to the horror movies, the kung fu pictures. We used to go see double features on 42nd Street. Nothing adult, you know, related. You know, all R, you know, or PG-13, whatever you want to call it. So I was exposed to all of that. Language was not something my dad ever thought was something that was bad. It's just spoken words.
Okay.
You know, there are much worse things in the world than that.
At the Sewer Den, he actually wants to know, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, wow. I'll tell you what it is. It's the orange marshmallow covered with the chocolate.
Orange marshmallow covered with chocolate.
Yeah. They only come out during Halloween. That's it. And it's just that little orange marshmallow thing with the thin chocolate covering. Oh, my God, that's it for me. I've gone into Rite Aid and bought the whole box, all 24 of them, and just bring it home.
I've always been a fan of peanut butter cups.
Yeah, but you can get them all year long, though.
I know.
And, like, one of the things I like is chocolate Twizzlers. You can't, everywhere doesn't carry them, so I have to find stores that carry them, and then every so often they don't anymore, and I get upset and I got to find someplace else. But Halloween candy, oh, it's definitely the chocolate-covered orange marshmallows.
All right, great. I want to actually also give you a chance to talk about a minor consideration. I know this is a nonprofit organization that you're involved in. Can you tell us about that?
A minor consideration is a nonprofit, and we help change child labor laws to improve the conditions in which children in the entertainment industry are put under. Everybody thinks, you know, the best. Well, that's just not the case. You can look this up. Children in the entertainment industry are federally exempt from working laws. Now, anybody out there who has a job, you have laws and rules that have to be followed. Kids in the entertainment industry are zero. There's nothing. It's one paragraph. It says we're exempt. If you bring a dog on a set or a horse or any kind of an animal, there's 120 pages of legislature to protect them. Kids have zero. The money. There's a law called the Coogan Law, which is really a federal law, but it's only instituted in a handful of states. It states that 15% of the kids' money goes into a trust account, so when they turn 18, they get their money. But again, it's only a handful of states. Yes, of course, California. I think it's New York and Pennsylvania and Illinois, I believe, is one of them. That's one of the things that we're trying to change, so that it is nationwide. In today's society on television, we're watching all these kids on all these reality shows. Well, the fact is all these kids are getting paid nothing. They're getting paid zero. Their parents are getting paid for their usage. The John and Kate Plus-8, the Dugars, all this stuff, the kids, the minors are getting paid nothing. The production company, the network is hoping that the parents take the money and do the right thing with it. Now, hoping and praying are two different things, and so is doing the right thing. That's a third different thing. So these are the things that we work on. We've had many kids and not kids that we've helped put into rehab centers over the years. Paul Peterson started this over a quarter of a century ago. I got involved about a year ago. Paul came to me and said, hey, listen, I'm getting to the age where I need to slow down. We need to have some new blood, and I think you're the person to take the reins. It was not a quick decision or an easy decision, but I sort of broke it down to about the lowest level possible. That was, A, I'm tired of burying my peers. I don't want to see kids dying young from suicides or drug overdoses anymore. There's just no reason for it. They're just not educated enough to know that if the phone doesn't ring for an acting job, learn something else. When you're on a set, learn everything you can, from being a grip, a tech, a sound person, a camera operator, whatever you can. And I didn't want to see the Jonathan Brandis syndrome where he was 27, he had done Sequest on NBC, and he had done films, and then the phone stopped ringing, and he went in his closet one night and he hung himself. You know, we don't want to see more River Phoenixes. You know, I also sort of, and to move on, I want to stop the Britney and the Lindsay Lohan syndrome of the party hardy until I can't walk anymore. At 20 to 25, there's no reason to do it. Money is not an object if you're a working actor, even as a child or a young adult. But there are other things you can do that don't include getting bombed or stoned, or drugged out of your mind. There's just no reason. So it's education. A lot of it, is going to be working with parents and kids. Really, I've been to the top of the mountain. I've been at the bottom of the hole, and I'm sort of in the middle now. And I understand my place, and I'm comfortable in my skin. And if I can change a kid's life to not go down that path, then I've done the right thing. And a minor consideration, you can find it online, aminorconsideration.org. You can read all about us. You can make a donation. We're a nonprofit. You get a tax write-off. And, we certainly can use any donations that do come in. None of us get paid anything. This isn't like, hey, I'm getting rich. No, that's not the case. I just did 3 months of putting together our first, gathering, our Guiding Star Gala, and I didn't make anything from it. And it was, 10, 12 hours a day of getting sponsors and people to donate things. The NFL, the WWE was great. The Arena Football, Philadelphia Soul were terrific. The NFL, Major League Baseball Players Association, they all donated stuff. Harlan Warner, who reps Sandy Koufax and Muhammad Ali, donated stuff. Nikki C., who works for Prince Marketing, donated, autographed gloves by, Dolph Lundgren. It says Ivan Drago from Rocky IV. We are not in the business of making money. We're in the business of trying to educate, especially the younger and mid-range generation from 8 to 15 or 16, to do the right things, not get involved with drugs and alcohol. Understand that acting is probably the worst job in the world. You could be the greatest child actor to walk planet Earth, but unless the guy across the table thinks you're the exact one he's looking for, you're done. You could be 2 inches too tall. You could be 2 inches too short. Your eyes could be blue. They want brown. You could have blonde hair. They want a brunette. It's things like that. I had a role that was basically offered to me. Do you remember the show Malcolm Jamal Warner and Eddie Griffin? Yeah. They were looking for a white bartender. And as it ends up, as it is, I went to high school at Professional Children's School in New York, in Manhattan, with Malcolm Jamal Warner. I worked at the Comedy Store with Eddie Griffin. So when they said they came out with this thing, and the two guys were two of the producers, they said, hey, we know the guy. Or Malcolm said, I know the guy, Scott Schwartz. And Eddie said, how do you know him? He said, I went to school with him. And I got this. I worked at the Comedy Store. He's the guy. So I went in, and there was basically me and one other kid, whatever, and he went in first, and then I went in for a long time. I was in there a good 30, 40 minutes. And the reason why I did not get the role was I was just too short. Malcolm's over 6 foot, Eddie's 5'10", 5'11". They just didn't think it would play funny if they had a short bartender. So I didn't end up getting the role.
What you're advocating with a minor consideration is that you're trying to educate the children or the child actors to not get too hung up on the nuances of why they wouldn't get a role.
Well, that's part of it. It's also the education to tell them, listen, you're on a set. You're on a series. If you like writing, ask the writers a question. They'll tell you stuff. Go sit on the writer meetings. They'll let you do it. If you show the interest, they will love the fact that you show the interest. If you want to become a director, ask the director when you're not working, can I sit in the booth with you? Can I learn how to do this? They will let you do it. Get behind the camera. The cameraman will help you. Learn every job there is, so once you get off this film or once you get off this series and you're not working, you can apply with the same people you worked with on a series that are starting another project and say, hey, I'd really like to know if there's a job for me. You guys taught me how to grip and tech and do sound, and I can boom operate. There isn't a job I can't do. And if you're anywhere of a decent human being, they're going to say, absolutely. They're going to want to put you back to work because they're going to want to see you advance and do well. It's also educating the parents. Don't get caught up in scams. Don't get caught up in the celebrity aspect of it. Here today, gone tomorrow. There are thousands and thousands of child stars who did a few things. You never heard from them or saw them ever again. Not that we can change that. We can help educate them and educate the parents to make sure that the kid is getting a good education and a rounded education. Coming out of high school, I didn't know how to do a lot of things, but damn straight, I knew everything on a movie set. Everything. There wasn't a job I couldn't do. I used to have a business card that said Scott Schwartz, Jack of all trades, because I learned how to do everything. So a minor consideration is here to look after the kids. The studios don't want us to do this because they don't want parents educated. Whether it be Warner Brothers, Universal, Paramount, Sony, TriStar, Miramax, it doesn't matter. They want you as dumb as you can be so they can do things to take advantage of you for what they need. You become a product to them. You're not Bob Johnson or Bob, Roberts or whatever. You're just a product. They're going to use the product until they don't need you anymore, and out the door you go. Miley Cyrus, this is a great example. Hosted the VMAs the other night, whatever. People said she's crazy. She's insane. She's lost it. Look, she was little sweet Hannah Montana. And I say, no, that was a role she played. Now she's playing a different role. They figured out how to market and package her to go from that little kid to becoming a sex goddess and a sex icon of this era. That's what they did. It's absolute marketing genius. So far, we haven't seen her get in any real heavy trouble. We don't see any DUIs. We don't see any prison. We don't see cocaine. Her, Billy Ray, her father, knew what stardom was about. And I think he taught her right. And the game that they ended up playing went from being the kid star to the mega star.
So what you're saying is Miley is playing the system, or her people that handle her are playing the system. And
absolutely. And I mean, so this is a family-orientated show, but reality is sex sells.
Sure.
Now, can a 16 or 17 or 18-year-old boy do that? To some degree. I mean, Bieber did it a little bit, but, he's had his own issues with the law already. And he hasn't quite sold the package the way she did, but he still sold it. It's not about the talent you have. It's how can we market this product. If you're going to tell me Miley Cyrus is a great singer, I'll fall off the chair I'm sitting on because I look at a Carrie Underwood who came from a reality show, and that girl can sing her booty off.
She can.
She is an absolute megastar, no question. Of her generation. Kelly Clarkson can sing. Oh my goodness! I just watched her last night on Scorpions. The girl from American Idol that didn't win.
I don't follow Idol as much as my daughter and my wife do. I'm sorry.
Catherine, and I can't think of her last name, but she's on Scorpions right now. I just happened to be flipping the channel, and I saw she was on. I said, I haven't watched this before. Okay. The girl can sing until the end of time. They have real singing ability. So their marketing is marketed around the talent they have. The other people, it's marketing around the packaging that they have.
See, and I think as a consumer of all of that, I'm naive then, because I bought into the Miley is just kind of flipped out. But what you're saying is that she is kind of a product of her handlers.
That's what she probably pays her PR people $10,000 or $20,000 a month to do.
Because they're keeping her in the headlines, right?
Everywhere you go, there she is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Point. And there's the other mass markets. Your Twitter questions. Let's face it. If you have 15 or 20 million people or 30 million people following you on Twitter, whatever you tweet about, they pay you to tweet about it, unless it's you going to the grocery store. If she says, hey, I used this particular kind of hair gel the other day and it was great, they're paying her for that.
Right.
Tens of thousands amount of dollars. If you know how to play it, you can make a fortune playing it. She's 22, 23 now, whatever. Let's see at 35 if she's still viable. Or if the roller coaster has run its course and she can take her 4, 5, 800 million she made and go live someplace in peace the rest of her life and never have to worry about anything.
So let me ask you this, your personal opinion, since we're looking at somebody like Miley, how does she become like a Madonna?
It's all marketing. That's all it is. I mean, reality is, if you put the two of them next to next in their prime and you put Madonna can sing. Madonna could sing.
Of course she can, yes.
She could, and again, it was all timing, marketing, and where she went. I mean, let's face it, she does a cameo in, oh my goodness, the wrestling movie with Matthew Modine.
Oh, and I know that one too.
She sang Crazy for
Vision Quest.
Vision Quest, thank you.
Yes.
Along with the incredible soundtrack by Journey, which I absolutely love. She came from that, and all of a sudden, the next year, it was Like a Virgin, and the skyrocket took off, and that was it.
Right.
Then it was marketing a superstar, somebody who could perform, was amazing, incredible, and you can market that. Yes, she did a few movies, and never going to be known as a great movie actress, but she's a hell of a performer. Miley has to go on the extreme. I kind of say it in a funny way, but I don't want to sort of mix the talents involved. I mean, just from the marketing and stage standpoint, she's sort of like a 1975 Elton John on stage.
Miley,
he did Pinball Wizard and got dressed up in all these crazy outfits, and people went crazy. Now, Elton John is probably one of the greatest performers ever on a stage ever. So I'm not going to say performance-wise they compare. I'm just saying costume and atmospheric-wise. But is that going to last? Is the roller coaster going to keep running for another 5, 10, 15 years, or are people going to get tired of the shenanigans and see where the talent lies, and if it's there, it's there?
Right.
Lady Gaga is amazing. Lady Gaga is another one that when I saw pictures of her before I ever heard a song she sang, and I went, here we go, it's another 75 Elton John. She's just a female version. And then I heard her, I just happened to be flipping through the channels, HBO, there she was, and I said, you know what? My brother said this is a pretty darn good show. I'm going to watch some of this. Let me see how much of this I can stomach. That was my initial reaction. Then I put it on, and I didn't turn it off. And I went, oh my God. This girl is marketing this incredible strategy of being a freak show, of being a lunatic, and look at these costumes and all this craziness. But yet she opens up her mouth, and I'm like, okay, I got some respect for this woman. This woman can sing. This is good stuff. This is stuff that's going to last through time. I don't really want to harp on Miley, but, not the greatest singer in the world. Okay, fine. But she's not Streisand. She's not Celine Dion. She's not Carole King. She's not Karen Carpenter. That 30, 40, and 50 years later, Patsy Cline, that we still listen to and go, my God, the talent was oozing out of these people. Where's that 20, 30, 40-year mark? Elvis Presley probably had the greatest stage presence of any person ever. There was no band, there was nothing. A few guys behind him, okay, fine, and he lit up the stage. All by himself. There wasn't people dancing with him. He didn't have 25 dancers. No, it was him and the stage and some guys playing behind him. Give me somebody of this generation that can do it. Maybe Justin Timberlake to some degree. Heck of a dancer, decent singer. I like his acting particularly, but that's me. But they're all about the marketing of the product.
I see where you're getting at, though, because, those actors, or not those actors, but those performers that you mentioned, Elvis, I mean, there's a catalog of work that you can go back and re-enjoy over and over and over again. But like Miley, there's maybe one, maybe two songs, that would be that would fall into that category of, I'll listen to it again, but you're not, 30, 40 years from now, you're right. Are we going to go back and go, oh my God, let me pull out that Miley Cyrus album?
Yeah, I mean, my 6-deck CD in my car, I have Journey's greatest hits. I have a compilation of stuff from the 80s, the hair band, Love Hurts or whatever it is. I have singers and songwriters. I have Neil Diamond, because that's just me. And I have Elvis Presley. And then, normally I just switch one on and off just depending on my moods,
Sure.
Sometimes it'll be Bon Jovi, sometimes it'll be, Guns N' Roses, and other times it's just whatever I got in there is good,
Oh, you can't go wrong with Bon Jovi.
They're from New Jersey, like me. Actually, his cousins, owned a funeral home called the Bon Giovini Funeral Home in Raritan, New Jersey. So I knew them before John became famous. And then when I met John and told him that I knew his cousins, he thought I was kidding until I told him where the funeral home was. He's like, "Oh my God, you really do know my cousins?" I'm like, "Yeah, I went to school with some of them."
Yeah, I watched him, what was that show? The Actor Studio, I think it was.
Mm.
Yeah, he was fantastic in that. I wish I could remember more of it right now, but yeah, it was just fantastic with him being a little more, in depth around the songs and kind of the motivation and.
But if you'd have had that conversation with him 15 years ago, you'd have seen a different show.
Right. Right.
Because we all reflect and we look back, and as we mature, we think differently. He was on top of the world for so many years and did a lot of good things with his money, does a lot of stuff for the community. It's helped people along the shoreline when they had Sandy, rebuilding homes. He's a very thoughtful man. Of course, he is a father, husband. Having families definitely change your perspective and outlook on life. And he knows he has enough. He knows he has more than enough to feed 5 generations, 6 generations of his family. So if he can give something back, that works.
Yeah, and he seems very open to doing that. He seems very genuine and nice and honest and open, and yeah, I respect Bon Jovi.
I would second that without a doubt. But again, talent, at the end of the day, marketing pays off. Talent is what is the everlasting. If you have the talent, you're going to outlast. Listen, Frank Sinatra is already gone almost 20 years. And he still can outsell almost anybody that comes out with an album today. That's insane that a really good Frank Sinatra album is 40s, 50s, 60s. Okay. 70s, there's some good stuff, a little bit okay. 80s is where the decline is in his later years. So that means realistically it's been 40 years since the man has had what you would consider a good Sinatra album, and they're still selling it. Because it's quality. It's real. People love the voice. They love the quality of the material. Today, it's a song is number 1, a song is number 100. It goes up, it goes down, and next week it's something else. Very few things stick around. There's almost no film in the last God knows how many years, 20 years, that was first run in the theaters like the original Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. A movie comes out now, it's in and out of the theaters. Even if it's got a long legs, it's maybe a couple of months. Jurassic Park, $1.6 billion. It only came out 3 months ago, and it's basically getting to the end of its run. There was quality. There's things in those old films that make it stand the test of time, that people want to keep going to see because they love it. It's now more about the product. It's about product placement. It's about how you can package and sell it, and we got to move on to the next thing. I'm one of the few people, I think, on the planet that actually liked The Lone Ranger. Johnny Depp's The Lone Ranger. I enjoyed it, but I know who The Lone Ranger is. I was watching Clayton Moore as a kid doing The Lone Ranger. So I really enjoyed that film, and it just did not get any kind of box office at all. I don't think they broke even. They lost money on it. It was a fun movie. That's a movie you take your kids to see.
So let me ask you this then. Based on what you were just saying, do you not see a movie like The Avengers in the same league as Star Wars?
I guess it's just different because of CGI, all the technology we have now.
Right.
Listen, I loved Avengers. I probably watched the first one more than I watched the other ones.
Oh, sure.
For what it is. Again, CGI has opened up a balloon, a basket of things that they can do. And everybody can do it now. But in 1977, we had never seen anything like Star Wars. By even 1980, we'd not seen anything like The Empire Strikes Back except in Star Wars.
Right.
So now it's just where else can we go with the same technology? And let's see what we can do, the Avatar thing and the CGI and, the sound and it's gone to the point where, okay, you're going to get a lot of the same, different storyline, whatever, but it's a lot of the same. That's not to say I don't enjoy them, because I do. But I can sit down and still to this day watch the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, great film. Great film.
Wonderful film. That's a movie every single kid on planet Earth should watch.
Most definitely. You're right.
Well, does it have any the superheroes? No. That's not what it's about. Oh, I want to watch Avengers. I want to watch the Hulk. I want to watch Spider-Man. You can't sell kids on that. It's a tough sale now. But yet it's a wonderful film. It's a kids' movie that everybody loves. All good relationship movies are something that gets passed down from generation to generation, or should. What is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory really about? Is it about him getting the chocolate factory? No. It's about Wonka looking for a kid that he sees himself in that 10-year-old, 11-year-old body. And he wants that kid because he wants his legacy to live on, his vision of what Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is all about. That's what he wants. And at the end of the film, when Charlie Bucket goes and gives him back the everlasting gobstopper, it's the honesty of the child. But he goes, that's it, you're the one.
And it's also the life lessons that get imparted the whole way through, like the Augusta Gloop, don't eat too much. The Mike TV, don't watch too much TV. You break into a song every so often with the Oompa Loompa. So,
Absolutely.
These are great moments and morals throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and it continued not in film but on television. We had Saturday mornings with ABC School of Rock.
Oh, my God, great.
Schoolhouse Rock. I'm sorry, Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes.
And you had The Bill. I'm just a Bill, and I'm only a Bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. I haven't seen this stuff in 40 years, and I still remember it.
Yes.
It was wonderful. It was a learning tool. It was fun. We're not exposing kids to that today. Now it's Transformers, shoot 'em up, bang, bang, whatever. Or a reality something show with a bunch of kids competing against each other. Where's the heart? Where's the heart that we had with the Captain Cavemans and Hong Kong Phooey?
Hong Kong Phooey, yes.
And give me Schoolhouse Rock. Give me all of those. Give me the Muppet Show. Oh, my God. How much did we all love the Muppet Show?
Just loved the Muppet Show. I was a big Fozzie Bear fan. Waka,
I loved
waka,
all
waka.
of them. I loved Animal. I loved the two old guys up in the stands. I have a T-shirt with them on them,
Oh, Statler and Waldorf.
Yes, Statler and Waldorf. I still have my T-shirt, and I still wear it from time to time. And people go, where did you get that? That's the Muppets. And I go, exactly.
Dr. Bunsen and Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker.
Loved all of it. But the kids today are not exposed to that. Now it's all about how do we market. Whatever it is, it's getting marketed. We have to ram everything down everybody's throats, and every parent is cringing every time they walk into a store because their kid wants to buy the new doll of this or the new action figure of that or the spaceship of this or whatever. I couldn't tell you 2 times I walked into a store looking for Muppets. That's not what it was. I couldn't wait for the Muppets to come on CBS Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. That was it. That's what it was.
Did you watch Fraggle Rock?
Of course. I never liked it as much as I liked the Muppets, but it was okay. They had the songs, everybody's happy and okay, Today it's a different generation. You have to reach the kids differently. It's one of the reasons why we did this, a minor consideration, did this gala, was simply to reach the new kids and tell them we exist. If you have problems, if you have issues, you have a question, pick up the phone. We're there for you. Send us an email. We'll reply. Find us on Facebook. We're there. We do have a Twitter handle, although I'm not good at that. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to Twitter. I don't twit, so it's like, okay, fine. But there are others in our organization that do. And, we have a Allison Ingram, who was on Little House on the Prairie, she's on our Twitter. And Sarah Montague, who was in a show called Hey Dad in Australia. She lives here in the States now. She lives in Texas. She's on our Twitter. There's a group of us. It's not a solo effort anymore. And trying to reach these kids and give them not only an education, but fun. There was a thing that we did years ago. When I first moved to California, it was New York seltzer parties. And what it was at the Hotel Roosevelt, and we had about 30 or 40 child actors from every TV show that would come and get together for a party. It wasn't about PR. It wasn't the red carpet. It was nothing. There were no fans allowed. So it was Keith Coogan, Jeremy Miller, Kirk Cameron, Alyssa Milano, Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, Alfonso Ribeiro, Ricky Schroeder, myself, Brad Pitt came to one of them, David Faustino and Christina Applegate from Married with Children, and we would all get together and just have fun. We had karaoke contests. We danced. We had a blast. Nobody got paid anything, and it wasn't about publicity. I tried about a year ago or so. I'm going to try again to see if we can get that started again. Kids in the entertainment industry get sort of boxed in by who they're on a set with, who they communicate with. It's not normally a lot of kids that are their own age or their generation or their own occupation. They're around adults. When I did the toy, there was only one other kid on the set. He was my understudy, and that was it. You think 4 months of your life, you got one other kid who's your buddy now, who I actually still talk to. God love him, Davis Hotard. He's down in Louisiana. He's a teacher now. We want to try and get this started again. What's happening, though, is the public relations people, the first thing they say is, oh, this is a party thing. My client gets $5,000 to attend those. And I try and explain, no, that's not what this is about. This is what it is. And they go, oh, my client has no time for that. So the parent is never notified. The kids are never notified. The PR person who just wants to make money for their client or their managers, they don't care. I mean, the kids that came to this thing, there were about 30 young actors that came. When I say young actors, I'm talking 15 and below. And we had a blast. There was a red carpet, so that you get to have their picture taken and all of that. That's why the PR people said yes. But they had more fun coming into Lucky Strike Hollywood and bowling and having pizza and coconut shrimp and vegetable skewers and chicken skewers and having a fun day and bowling and having just fun with music playing. Those kids had a blast.
Yeah, video games and karaoke, right? That's a good time.
No karaoke and no video games this time. We just did this because the bowling was there.
Oh, okay.
I might try and throw it at another place at another time with a karaoke thing and this, and see if I can still get those same PR people to have their clients come. Not as a fundraiser, maybe, so to speak, because it's not going to be open to the public, just to see if we can get 40 or 50 or 70 young child actors to come out and have a good time without the pressures of the press and media and red carpet and blah, 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 whatever. Just come out and have fun. That's what they're supposed to do at that age. Enjoy your childhood.
Right.
It's not all about how much money you're bringing into the kitty.
All right. So, Scott, outside of, was it a minorconsideration.org?
That's it. Yes, minorconsideration.org.
Okay. So if our listeners want to get a hold of you, is there any other ways that you'd recommend for them to find out what you're up to lately?
If you go to on Minor Consideration on Facebook, when I'm doing stuff, it gets posted up there because our, thing, our people all can join in, you can join it and then, jump in as our friends and whatever.
Okay.
I don't really do Twitter, as I said, I do a lot of stuff with memorabilia and autograph signings and celebrity signings, and I rep people. My clients, my exclusive clients are Ed O'Neill, Christina Applegate, and a nice lady named Priscilla Presley.
Very cool.
So I rep them for shows. So if you see somebody's going to be somewhere, there's a show in New Jersey called Chiller the end of October. Hopefully I'll be bringing 5 or 6 people there. There's stuff all in and around the Midwest, normally Christmas stories, something, somewhere. I know we're going to be in Pittsburgh, and we're going to be all over. Normally, if you just go to Google and type in my name and say appearance or whatever, somebody will have it up there somewhere.
All right. Well, Scott, I really appreciate you being very generous with your time tonight.
Listen, it's my pleasure, and I appreciate the fact that you can let me ramble and talk about all the things that I have passion for, and the minor consideration is definitely top on the list. And, the career and all the fun stuff. That's the fun things that we get to share with people, the experiences, the fun times, the good times, sometimes bad times. Doesn't always, work out the best way you want. But, I appreciate you giving me the venue and the avenue and the time as well.
Getting the background story of A Christmas Story, The Toy, Kidco, these are all movies that, I enjoyed, back in the 80s. And, to get the deeper story behind, that means the world to me and, my listeners. So I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. One funny thing I will tell you lastly about Kidco, they were never going to release it. 20th Century Fox was not going to release it. And they finally decided to give it a test run in Mobile and Birmingham, Alabama, on one fateful weekend, that if you had your choice and you were going to go see Scott Schwartz in Kidco, or you were going to go see Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah in Splash, what would you have gone and seen? And that was pretty much the end of Kidco.
Wow. So you're up against Splash.
Up against Splash, opening weekend. Does the term no shot mean anything?
Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks. Oh my gosh, that would be tough competition.
Very tough competition.
Yeah. And actually, a very memorable, fun movie also. Yes.
I mean, it's me being in Kidco, I equate to some degree like Corey Haim being in Lucas. That got a release. Of course, it had, Cary Green, and it had Charlie Sheen in it. So a little bit bigger of a cast, but I mean the movie itself, they both stand on their own 2 feet, and they're 2 good films, and I wish more people would have seen Kidco, because it is a fun movie about, brother and his 3 sisters who sell horse manure, and they repackage it, so to speak, with straw and oats to become fertilizer, and that's how the true story became, and that was the business.
Actually, my favorite part of that was when you were making the argument, I'm being taxed at both ends.
Yes. Yes, my father.
That was classic.
My father paid tax on the straw and oats going in one end. Why should I get taxed on what comes out the other? I mean, we're getting taxed at both ends.
Exactly. Thank you, Scott, for helping me with those memories. This is great.
You're very welcome, and I hope your listeners enjoy it as well.
I'm sure they will. And they've got problems if they don't. All right. Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Good night.
You got it. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80's Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80's Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80's Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.